the first returning person that I've had on my
Oh
interview.
wow,
Yeah, so
oh,
yeah,
that's
I'm
dope.
excited about that. So let's
I'm honored.
see.
Let
Let's
me
make
see if I
sure.
can
Yeah,
frame this.
I saw you got with Roxy too, so that was dope.
Yeah, yeah, that was fun, man.
All
She's
right,
like,
we got we.
like a walking like cartoon Wikipedia.
Yep. All right, so we live now. I'm gonna let a few more people stack in real quick, but yeah. Matter of fact, you know what? No, we can go ahead and get into the intro and everything. I'm gonna do a quick countdown, and we're gonna jump into it. All right.
All right, cool. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Welcome back to the Geekset podcast, only podcast that blend hip-hop culture and geek culture together. I'm your boy Deuces, and this is a special edition of One-on-One with Deuces. I know I've been taking a hiatus. As you can see, we've been working on the Black Geek documentary, so I haven't been doing interviews lately. But, you know what I'm saying? I got a call from the big homie, and I was like, you know what? Let's make this happen because, you know, when somebody like the man that I got here calls, you answer. You know what I'm saying? But as you can see, if you don't know, man, I got the one and only, the most super dope, one of the most dopest people I've met in this industry by far. We got the one and only Carl Jones of Martian Blueberry. Bro, how are you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Man, you know, just getting, man, just working, man. I think, you know, the last time we chopped it up was at DreamCon, you know what I'm saying? And that's when we premiered our trailer, and things have been going crazy with that. And so now, you know what I'm saying, we just gearing up for the next phase of that to try to, you know, finish out this doc and get things going. But, you know, just still, you know, curating the culture, you know what I'm saying? Trying to be a positive voice in the culture, trying to be somebody that represents and put on for this culture and everything like that. So I'm glad to have you here because, you know, as I always do on my interview platforms, is I make sure that the people that I interview know that they're loved and appreciated. And the one great thing that I've been loving seeing is especially with the emergence of Martian Blueberry, it's all the love that you have been getting, you know, with just of people chopping it up with you, people giving you your flowers. You know, you've been making it a big effort to go to where the culture is at. So I've been loving seeing all the love that been coming your way, because I always want to make sure that our legends and our heroes get supported. They also, again, like, they feel loved and everything. So that's been one of the biggest things that I've been seeing. I've been seeing so many new faces in this culture, and I've been seeing the conversations that have been had. And I just truly am blessed to have you here, because I'm just like, yeah, this person is doing great things for us, and I get to have that conversation with them. So, like, yeah, man, again, as I tell you every time I see you, man, I just want to make sure you know that you are appreciated 1,000%, man.
Oh man, no, thank you, bro. That means a lot. You know,
Mm.
I'm honored, you know, to number one to be acknowledged like that, you know, but also just to still be working in this industry and to be relevant, you
Yeah.
know, and also, man, like seeing the stuff that you know we made years ago still resonate with the culture and you know seeing how people truly like show up and support and still stand behind everything that we created in the past, like even if it's like you know like years and years ago. It's kind
Right.
of dope, but it's dope to see it stand the test of time. So I'm always you know really humbled by that and just like appreciative, you know, and just really have a just a genuine love for the fans, man, and people that have been supporting me over the years, you know.
No, yeah, I want to get into, you know, one of the reasons that we are here, because and it's funny because in our last interview, when we had the interview, you had threw it out there. You was like, man, you know, Tube Steak probably would have went crazy in this era, and you was like, man, I'm thinking about bringing him back. I'm thinking about bringing it back, and then, you know, he was like, you know, with Thugnificient and everything, and then to see that you're leaning more into that and bringing that out, it was like, it's kind of like you laid the breadcrumbs, the thought was there, and then to see it work, it is crazy, bro. Like, that's been really dope to see. It's just that theorization of that, like, oh man, I should bring that back.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, we my man Afion Crockett, you know, he actually shot and produced and this film independently, a hip hop story. I don't know if you got a chance to check it out, but but he hit me up because me and him go way back. Like we went to high school together. So like, you know what I mean? Like we you know, it's kind of cool that we both, you know, like took a risk and came out here and started, making our way in Hollywood or whatever. So like when he hit me up to do a cameo in that movie as Tube Steak, I went crazy. I was like, yo, I got to do this, man, because people have been asking me about it. And to be honest, man, I was kind of, the reason why I hadn't done more with it is this gonna sound crazy, but like when I was doing it, people didn't know it was a joke, right? So like I was getting all of this like hate mail, and like and niggas was like going in on me like about how dumb I was and how fat I was, all this kind of shit. So I don't know, man, that shit was kind of hurting me a little.
The internet, bro. The internet is ruthless, and if you're on the wrong side of the internet, it feels like everybody's against you.
Yeah, bro. So like I got to a point where I was like, yo, because it's funny. I shot a bunch of new Tube Steaks like some years ago.
Yeah,
and but I just didn't put them out because I'm sitting on like a bunch of episodes that I never did anything with because I was like. I was in my feelings, like the way niggas was coming at me,
bro. So it's funny because, like I said, the internet they do that to you. So I remember I was late on to Succession, right? And so I'm like, and so everybody was telling me about Succession, and they kept on saying like it's like Breaking Bad, The Wire level good, right? So when and that's my fault for listening to how people painted and not having a blank slate going in. So as I'm watching it, I'm like, this ain't really like Game of Thrones, The Wire, Breaking Bad. So I said that on the timeline. When I tell you for a week straight, somebody told me, they was like, bro, you don't even deserve your blue check mark. I was like, yo, I just don't like the show.
Yo, especially on Twitter. Like Twitter's ruthless. Like they don't play. But you know what's funny, man? I say this. I appreciate it though. Like I'm talking about, well, at least I appreciate like the critical thinking, because like when you go into because look, they hold us to a certain. I'm just thinking about in terms of like creating content, right? Like they hold us to a certain level of expectation and quality, and I know art is art, right? So it's not like you're creating art to please everybody necessarily, but I do feel like we have a responsibility to bring a certain level of quality and entertainment. And they hold us to it, bro. Like like these niggas ain't gonna let you just get away with anything. Like you gotta really show up, and you gotta. But it forces you to be a little bit more creative and to dig a little deeper. When it comes to social commentary and overall, just like your voice and So like I do appreciate it because it keeps me on my toes.
Right. Yeah, and so with like one of the things that that's new with what you're working on, I want to get into the Bubblegoose mixtape, bro. Like you put out a mixtape as hosted by Thugnificient, which I love for so much because I told you, when we in our first interview, I spent so much time trying to figure out who voiced Thugnificient when I first heard it, right? I'm like, who is that? Who is that, right? And so then, because for whatever reason, I think the IMDb credit didn't have you on there at first. This was like during the time when it was first out and everything. So now it's definitely corrected. But now that and I always love Thugnificient because it was like he was a ratchet rapper, but he also was like, hey man, I'm just like out here trying to live fly and everything like that. So then to bring Thugnificient back, he got him hosting mixtapes and everything. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, I did want to ask you, because Thugnificient isn't shy to rap beef, and in the state of world of what's going on right now, it seems like Drake is up. What type of advice would Thugnificient give K-Dot right now? Because K-Dot is on the clock. What do you think Thugnificient would suggest to K-Dot?
Wow, that's a good question. What would Thugnificient? I mean, look, man. Thugnificient went after an old nigga for hating on him just because he lived next door and was making too much noise with his party. So like Thugnificient don't have, he don't hold no punches, bro. You know what I mean? So he would tell K-Dot, you got to go in. You can't let nobody get away with that. You know what I mean? You gotta. I mean, regardless of what it is. But honestly, like I feel like it's just good for the culture anyway. Like just to see that kind of mental jousting, and you know what I mean, and it keeps even those artists who are all really dope artists, right, and dope lyricists, but it keeps you on your toes, right? Like you could never get too comfortable. So like all of that to me is good for it's just good for the art form. And I to be honest, you know, and I fuck with J. Cole heavy. Like J Cole, huh?
I said me too.
Yeah, like J. Cole is like I mean, hands down, like one of my favorite artists. And we both from Fayetteville, North Carolina, right? So I support him 1,000,000%. But with that being said, I did feel like I was like, I think he might have put too much on it, really. Like, meaning like that apology, I think might not have been warranted, really, because I don't think he said anything that was too crazy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was like, you know, I mean, the bars was dope, but it was more about the bars than it was like, I slept with your baby mama. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he you know, he didn't say nothing too crazy, really. So I thought, like, I don't know. I think he might have. He was maybe a little bit too dramatic about it.
Yeah.
But you know, I also respect how he feels too, because I mean, that's not really his thing. He hasn't, like, it's not like he made a name for himself off of battle rap. You know what I mean? And so, like, I get it. You know.
So here's my perspective on it as well, because I kind of got that same thing. And I was like, as a non-problematic black man who try to protect my own peace, I understand where he's coming from. My thing, I said, if he wasn't going to like just really like engage in the verbal sparring, then he shouldn't have put it out, because then it wouldn't, because and now how we see things going, I think, and this is just me, I have no I have no proof of this, but I believe because Cole is literally in the middle of this. Like, I feel like Kendrick and Drake really don't like each other, but Cole got love for both Dot and Drake, right? And so I feel like Cole came to the party like, oh yeah, we rapping? Oh good, let's just rap against each other, right? And then when he put his diss out, I feel like because he probably talked to both of them. He probably talked to the head out like, yeah, I got you. And Dot's like, hey, I just want to make sure you know that me and Drake, we gonna take it there. And then he probably talked to Drake, and Drake's like, yeah, you know we taking it there. And Cole was like, oh, I thought we was just rapping. I don't want none of this. I just wanted to rap. I didn't know we was taking it there. And that's why he did it. Like, hey, just so everybody know, all the parties involved, I just wanted to rap. I don't really I'm not invested in this like that. So that's my where I'm hanging my hat on with Cole, because he hasn't really spoke on it since then. So until he speaks, we really won't know. But like, I'm just thinking like, maybe it's that. Maybe it's just that, like, he's just like, hey, this is about to get messy, and I ain't trying to get messy. I just really wanted to rap. So let me just get back out of here.
Right.
So with the mixtape, right? So I listened to the mixtape a couple of times. One, you got some really dope ass artists on there. You got some artists that I've never heard of. You got, you know what I'm saying, some artists that are like just top tier, like Larry June and everything. What sparked this whole idea for the Bubblegoose mixtape?
Well, I mean, music has always been a big part of everything that I've done in animation. You know what I mean? And I mean, you know, all the way back to the Boondocks, like, you know, music was really important to us. You know, it was not only was, you know, the culture of hip hop a big influence in terms of like the kind of stories we're telling and the characters we created and the, you know what I'm saying, and the and just the overall vibe and attitude of the shows, but I think just music itself literally was just a big part of everything that I produced, from Black Dynamite to Boondocks to Freaknik the musical, which obviously is a musical. But it's, you know, it's also because I think hip hop or rap music has basically served as a vehicle or a way to contextualize our experience, right? It's always been that. And so we aim to do the same thing in animation, you know, with everything that I produce. Like, I aim to do the same thing, to try to contextualize our experience, like where we are right now, and show like different aspects of the culture, you know, through the eyes of various different characters, and making sure that it resonates with the culture and feels even lyrical sometimes, like even the way, you know, the characters interact with each other and the way they talk. So like, I say that to say music has always just been naturally infused in everything. So so when Bubblegoose Ballers came about, you know, we've been thinking about different ways to introduce this IP to the world without having to necessarily go through the TV and film route first. And part of the reason why is because, you know, once, typically in Hollywood, you create a project, you create an IP, and you set it up. If you're fortunate enough to pitch it and set it up as a TV show or a film, a lot of times you have to sell the rights, sell the rights to that IP outright, right? And if you're fortunate enough to produce it and get some back end, you might see some profits. But in terms of creative control and actually the ability to do other things with that IP is very hard to do once you've done that. Right. So we introduced Bubblegoose Ballers first as an NFT project, and I know like that word has like a lot of negative connotations, right? But I understand why. But what we were doing was we were actually seeding an IP using Web3, and the digital aspect of it was a way for people to build a community around that IP that can actually have stake in the property as well, versus a lot of NFT projects that are kind of smoke and mirrors or more Ponzi scheme-ish. Like, that's not what we're doing. We use it as a way to truly, build a brand. And this is what we're doing now. So when we started looking at ways to introduce this IP before taking it to Hollywood, a mixtape just seemed like a great way to establish or to introduce the characters, but also establish the vibe, you know what I'm saying? And I think musically, like so there's a few things. So musically, we wanted to carve out like a real unique type of vibe, right? So like a lot of the artists that you hear, a lot of them might be, considered as underground artists, so they may not necessarily be mainstream popular artists, but they're really, really dope. And the
really dope, yeah.
Right, and the production is crazy. And I gotta give a shout out to Mia, because she's the one that really brought the artists together. And she's she's like a legend in the music game. And so when she's a part of Martian Blueberry as well. And I haven't really spoke much about Martian Blueberry, but that's the umbrella company, is the creative agency that Bubblegoose Ballers falls under. Right.
Oh, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. I got yeah.
that's kind of how it came about. And we just started, they got in the studio, man, and started putting some fire together. And then I had to get that Thugnificient voice together, because I hadn't done it in a while, right? And it honestly, it hurts my throat a lot, pause, when I do it. So a lot of times, even when I was recording for the show, I would I had to do like half of the episode one day, half of the episode another day, because that shit was like, just because I was screaming so much, because I was trying to actually do Luda.
Yeah.
Ludacris was supposed to play Thugnificient originally, so I was doing this kind of heightened, characterized version of Luda as a temp voice until we got Luda. But then when Luda couldn't do it, I ended up getting the job by default,
But so you're not necessarily a voice actor, but you got those credits, right? And you got things where you've done references, or then you've done, and then it end up being your voice. And for somebody like you, who is usually more so around the creativeness of a show, and getting to be the talent and the actor, and you have those characters that hit like that, right? Where it's like, hey, I can be this character, at cons, and I can, like, people resonate with this character, and there's that love and that joy. Did it feel good to step back in those shoes of Thugnificient? Like, because like when I was listening to the mixtape, as I'm looking, I was like, did he write this, or is he freestyling these words? Because I was like, and it sounded like he was having a lot of fun doing these audio drops and talking in regards to that.
It felt Thugnificient, nigga.
I love it.
I breathed it in, I basked in it. It's fun, man. It's always fun. But that's the thing. When we were doing the Boondocks, man, I tell people this all the time. Like, it was like a family, and so we were just having fun. And for a lot of us, most of us didn't have much TV experience, so I mean, we weren't working. It didn't feel like work. We were working a lot. We worked around the clock, but it didn't feel like work, because we were really just like having fun, making each other laugh. Even I mean, you know, it's at one point, like the first season of the Boondocks, we were working out of like an old Sony warehouse, right, where they kept like the Ghostbuster car and shit like
Right.
that. It was like a, you know what I mean, like because they didn't think like, okay, you just put the nigga show in the, you know what I'm saying, in the little warehouse. We didn't have no windows. It was like, I mean, then it was like at night they would pump some chemicals into the ground and shit, and there was a big like electrical tower in the parking lot. It was just like a place that nobody should really be working. But we were working there in the beginning, and then you know, once the show came out and then actually started to get some traction, we ended up getting a house in the Valley, you know, for the office. And so we was literally like hanging out, having fun. So a lot of times, like some of these ideas would come about because, like, you know, me or Aaron or Yamara, somebody might have found like a clip on YouTube, or World Star Hip Hop was like our morning paper. So like we might, you know, we'll see some stuff like, you know, like the Booty Warrior actually came from an actual clip that, you know what I'm saying, that we, you know, a clip. And but also like even characters like Tube Steak, you know, which was kind of a combination of Gilly the Kid, Uncle Murder, and some other characters that, you know, we would see just, you know, on World Star during our downtime when we just hanging out in the office. So I think it became like this place where we would just play, and I would just, you know, I would do voices and we would, you know, pitch jokes and just like hang out. And I think like that's why the show was so special, because it had all these, you know, I had a family of creative people hanging out, you know what I'm saying, and just doing what we would probably do even if we wasn't getting paid for it.
Yeah, and you know, it's been dope seeing on your Instagram. So you've been kind of going down memory lane and posting behind the scenes and old photos and everything. And I'm loving seeing like all the people also that was involved in it, you know, that are commenting like, yo, you know, I saw, you know, one of the comments I saw that stood out was like Slink, and Slink was like, man, I wish we could get the band back together. And I'm just like, yo, I forgot Slink was there. And then when you look at that cast, it's almost as if like there's like, we think about the big black cast of things that we have, you know, think about In Living Color and how talented that cast was, and you think about Martin and how talented that cast was, and Fresh Prince and Jamie Foxx, and the Boondocks is right there, because when you look at that talent that came through that household, it's like, yo, there's so many people, so many of our legends, so many of our GOATs, and so many people that is right now on the top of the game that was involved in that, from hip hop to actors to comedians to writers to voice actors. And it's like, yo, this cast was a goated cast. And you know, it's one of the, like, it's funny because like the Boondocks kind of also has that lore. Like it was gone too soon, but it had just enough gave us for just classic nonstop talking. It left such a big impact on us, and we still to this day reference it so much and want so much more. And now it's getting kind of like that Simpsons lore, because now a lot of things that are happening, people are like, oh, hey, the Boondocks talked about this, the Boondocks predicted this, and it's just like that whole IP itself has just been really dope.
Oh man, thank you. I mean, you said it. It's a combination of having a really, really amazing cast, but also having a really amazing group of creatives too, on the writing side and on the animation side. Like it was one of those, I do believe it was one of those moments in time where, like, you know, all the stars aligned. Like we had just like the right combination of people, and it was at the right time for it to resonate the way it did, you know, because I don't think the crew gets enough credit, because we had some, everybody is still pretty much, you know, working in the industry and doing great things. But you know, Yamara Taylor is a really, really talented writer. Ian Edwards was one of the writers on the show. You know, is really funny comedian, stand-up comedian and writer, producer. You know, Rodney Barnes. I'm pretty sure people know Rodney Barnes, who's also a legend. But you know, Brian Ash is another person that, you know, is a really, really talented writer that we went on to do Black Dynamite together and a few other things. But then, and on the acting side, you know, of course we had, you know, John Witherspoon and Regina King, and you know, you had Cedric Yarbrough and Gary Anthony Williams. But there was also like a lot of the side characters, and like, because we would cast, sometimes we would just cast more, because the show was more, we had more regular normal people. It wasn't like we didn't go to the typical voiceover bag of actors all the time. Like sometimes we might get Lil Wayne, or what I'm saying, or some more unconventional names, and people that may not quite be actors or voiceover actors, but they brought a certain level of authenticity, but also they brought something very unique personality-wise to a character. So I think that was also a magic ingredient. And the last thing I'll say is we also gave the actors so much room to improv, right? So, a lot of shows, you got to stick right to the script, but we realized the special sauce was a combination of both things. It was the writer's vision, but then once we got in the booth and we start having fun, that script sometimes goes out the window, and we start coming up with shit right on the spot. That's better than what was written. So I just say that to say it was fun, and it was just a really talented group of people that came together at the right time. And shout out to Aaron Magruder too, obviously, because that's who I learned everything from, basically, and
I call Aaron Magruder the Andre 3 Stacks of anime, because nobody sees him. Like he's been missing, or technically just not been on the scene, but he's still been working. Like, what I'm saying? And then when people do see him, it's like, it's that moment, like you are seeing an icon. You're like, oh, is that Aaron Magruder? Like, yo, it's like, what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. But
he gave me my first shot. He gave me a chance, and I learned a lot from him, and he put a lot of people on, and we did a lot of great things together. It's unfortunate, like we don't talk today, unfortunately, but yeah, I still got, I got nothing but love and respect and honor for him,
So we're back to the mixtape, because the one thing that I really did love is that this truly gave me mixtape vibes by the transitions of how the songs is, like, Thugnificient talking in between and everything. What was it, your decision to go mixtape versus like an album, or was why was that the vibe that was chosen?
Well, we wanted it to, the brand itself is a little throwback, right? Just because of the Bubblegoose coat. So I'll tell you just a little bit about the idea behind Bubblegoose Ballers. So, growing up in my neighborhood, like if you had a Bubblegoose coat, you was balling, right? So, so I used to draw, when I was doing graffiti and creating my own characters and stuff, I would draw these characters with Bubblegoose coats, because it was just like the dope thing to do. So one day I created this goose with a Bubblegoose coat. And I just called him Bubblegoose, obviously, right? And this character just kind of stayed in my sketchbooks for years and years and years. And so, it does have like a throwback kind of vibe and visual aesthetic. So we wanted to do something that kind of felt a little throwback too. And because I'm also a big fan of like the old school like Clue mixtapes and Juice and SNS and Kid Capri, like I was a big mixtape. As a matter of fact, I used to sell mixtapes, nigga. before I started working in animation and working in TV, I was hustling mixtapes like at clubs, going in barbershops and beauty salons. I was on the street, with movies, mixtapes, bootleg, all kinds of shit. So it is kind of a full circle also, like to do something that, because I used to, it's funny too, because I was talking to Vlad, because, I did a Vlad interview too. And, he's like, I know him now, like we cool. And I used to sell Vlad's mixtape. I was bootlegging Vlad's mixtape at one time in barbershops. So it's kind of weird now that I'm doing an interview with this same guy. I was, because he had a fire like Tupac mix and a Biggie mix that was like legendary in the mixtape game. If you haven't heard it, yo, look it up. This shit is
I know it, like, bro. Just like your love for the mixtape era, bro. Similar. I was selling mixtapes, and that's why I said if I ever meet Hove, I gotta at least let him know that, like, hey, I apologize because I was in Milwaukee. I was definitely the reason that there was a fake Blueprint mixtape, a Blueprint album being sold in there because I was tech savvy. My pops has been a computer engineer since I was born. So I knew about the internet. So downloading music, Napster, and I was tapped into the New York mixtape era. So because I was tapped in there, Milwaukee wasn't getting a lot of that music. So I was making, when Blueprint was rumored to be out, I was like, all right, well, I know that Milwaukee ain't heard this freestyle. They ain't heard this random track. So I put it together, and I had people was like, oh, I got the Blueprint early. I really didn't have it early, but it was just like a couple of, it was like a couple of tracks that leaked, some of the freestyles that he was dropping and everything. But hey, man, I was like, $5 a wop. I was there.
Let me tell you a crazy story, right? So it's funny because my man, the guy I used to hustle with, he actually just came. He was at my house yesterday, and I hadn't seen him in a few years, but he lives in Brooklyn now. But it was funny because when the Blueprint dropped, he and we had actually on 9/11. On 9/11, we had a whole lot of blueprints. I had to be like hundreds of copies, right? And we was just about to hit the street with it. It was pretty early, and then we saw that the Twin Towers got hit, right? So we stopped, we put our bags down, we turned on the TV, and our eyes. This is in North Carolina though, so we're glued to the TV. Everybody's making phone calls trying to find out what's going on, and we was just like, we were sitting there for like a couple of hours, like, oh shit, this is crazy, right? And then we was like, shit, nigga, we got that Blueprint, we got to get out. We got to, we still went out. We still went out with that CD. And when I say we sold everything, complete. Because I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was supposed to drop that day, but they pushed it because of that. Or something. It was something like that. Or it did drop that day. But
it did drop on. It did drop
that day. Yeah. But we that's why we had to hit the street early. And we got rid of everything.
Hey, that thing was moving, man. I swear it was. So you said Mia was the one that was getting the artists together and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, did she give you a heads up on like the tracks, like the artists, or did you hear the final product and then you saw the artist? Because I kind of want to like, Larry June probably was the biggest name on there. I wanted to get like, how did you, when you saw Larry June on the project, like what was your thought process at that point?
I flipped out. Because but she's, like I said, she's well connected, but also she has a really, really good ear. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just artists, that even have a buzz necessarily. She's looking for artists that really know how to put it down. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when she started like sending me links and names like Loftville, you know what I mean? Hennessy Snow, Rewind, you know what I mean? Larry June, but like these artists are just really dope, man. Really, 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 really dope. And so she sent me links to some of the artists' music that I wasn't familiar with, and then once the mixtape came together, she sent me a rough cut of it. And then she was like, we just need Thugnificient to to bring it all together. So that's when I did the voiceover, once I had a sense of the whole vibe of it all.
Yeah, and again, like those drops is what gave it that mixtape feel, because if you grew up in that mixtape era, you listen to mixtapes, it be that you be listening to a mixtape and then the DJ come on or the artist, and it's like the artist is talking to you specifically. So I love the fact that you're like, oh yeah, man, my fault, y'all, I got to get back to my lunch break and everything like that. I just love like the whole aesthetics of it, man. It definitely hit. And like, if I definitely want to make sure people go out and get that mixtape, you know what I'm saying? And it's called Volume 1. So can we expect more to come?
Yes, sir. Well, already, it's already in the works.
Okay, listen here. I'm gonna have to hit you behind the scenes because I already told Chris, I'm like, yo, he ain't even tap in with me. He must don't know that I legit do music. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm gonna have to get you some links so you can chat.
All right, yeah, let's talk about that then.
Yeah. But no, so I did, we tapped a little bit on Martian Blueberry. I do want to kind of bring more into that because I think what you are building over there with Martian Blueberry is necessary, is needed, and it's so important. Now for somebody like yourself who also has been in this game for a while, who has seen pretty much the ups and downs within this industry, where does your motivation come from to do Martian Blueberry?
That's a good question. You know what it comes from? It comes from me wanting to create some type of legacy for future Black creatives, but not just Black creatives, but primarily Black creatives who may not necessarily have the opportunities in front of them, right? Or know what to do in order to even make it in this industry, how to get their foot in the door and to stay in it, right? But not only that, but there's a lot of things that there's an educational side to what we're doing too, where we're teaching artists and creatives how to not only create a very strong and solid IP with great characters and good stories, we're also teaching them how to find your voice, your own personal voice, and making sure that you don't compromise that voice. And you can tell stories with integrity, but you have to sometimes, thread a needle in order to get it on TV and in the theaters, because our culture typically, I mean, things are somewhat changing, but our culture typically is looked at, or our stories are typically looked at through this lens of, not having global appeal or being universal, right? So there is a needle that you have to thread, and there's a way that we need to translate the culture so that it is effective, right? And so these things aren't necessarily taught in school, right? So there's a lot of kids coming out of Cal Arts, and they might be really dope or seasoned, or not seasoned, but trained animators. And so technically they know what they're doing, right? But then there's or writers for that matter too. There's writers that are coming out of school and they technically know how to write, and they, and they know everything about writing. But then the business side of it, the politics, and then also just the emotional intelligence that goes into being a good storyteller. These are things that are sometimes overlooked. So what we're aiming to do is, one, create really meaningful stories that speak to our culture in a very nuanced way, but we're also onboarding new creatives and doing more curating so that they have opportunities to tell their stories too. And so we can do more. I could be, kind of be more like an OG, or, like kind of, ushering in this new generation of creatives. The last thing I'll say is the big inspiration behind it as well is ownership and creative freedom. We're set up in such a way that the primary focus is to produce projects independently, and that goes for TV, film, and other verticals, because we also have our hand in collectible toys, we have our hand in fashion, we have our hand in comic books and graphic novels, and also gaming. And the purpose of this is to make sure that we explore all these various verticals so that we can carve out as much ownership as possible before going to Hollywood, right? And this is like, if you look at like J.K. Rowling with Harry Potter, right? She successfully created a model where she built out an entire empire off of her books. And now so when she gives the film rights over to a studio, it's fine, because that becomes an expensive commercial for her books, and she still owns the IP, and she still has creative control over the IP. So these are things that are really important to us. And this is kind of, our core model,
Yeah, and right now in this world, we're seeing that thought process that you have with a lot of other creatives and stuff like that. I know 50 just launched his movie studio. Issa, they said that she signed a deal for her own movie studio. You on the animated side, you're like, Tyler Perry, what he's been doing. Like, we're seeing more of that, of people saying, let's create our own, let's do our own. And I do think it is extremely important in regards to, like I said, building your own and ownership. And, a lot of people don't understand the IP game like that. Like, that is longevity right there. That is something that when you think about that, there's somebody Yeah, and like I'm just using a generalization. Obviously, there's faces to these people, but like there's somebody who owns the Star Wars IP, and think about everything that came from that. There's somebody who owns the Marvel IP or the DC IP, and think about all the stuff that goes through that. So you think about as a Black creative, or just like if you own that IP, and then you see all those things, you see cereal boxes with that character, that I like, and to know that that goes back to a Black creator or anything like that, like to me, that's stuff that I want to be behind. And those are the things that I also want to make sure I highlight and educate, because it's like, I am a true fan of this culture through and through. I like the newcomers, I like the OGs, and I want to be a bridge to kind of bridge everybody through. So when I see people that's doing it, that's why I always champion the winners, but I also champion the person who's climbing to try to be the winner as well, because it's like there's ways that both can exist. And I know in our culture, for whatever reason, showing love always get thrown into, oh man, you just dick riding or whatever the case may be. And so I'm the person that leans into it. So I'm like, fuck it, if that's what y'all want to call it, whatever, because you know what, I want to make sure that the dope shit that I'm seeing gets highlighted, because it's a little self-serving, because I know that there's been things that I've done in my career that I'm like, damn, man, you know what? It would have been really dope if this happened, or if these people reported on it, or this looked like this way. And I always said, you know what? I'm going to be the change that I want to see. Right?
That's right.
Because I know for a fact that if I was listening to somebody's podcast and they shouted me out or they said my name, to me, I'm like, hell yeah, that's dope. But then everybody want to put the cool face on and act like, oh, yeah, that's whatever. And I'm just like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna give everybody that love, so that way, if somebody thinks that my podcast is the biggest podcast and I shout you out and you feel that that's dope, I want that for you. And you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I don't ever want anybody to have the thoughts that I had, where I'm like, damn, am I doing this for whatever? And I am a testament of showing that, like, put your head down and work, because the people will come and the industry will come and the love will come and stuff like that. So I really love what Martian Blueberry is about, because like I said, there's not a lot of us in the animation.
You're right. And I think what happens too is a lot of our people, when we have some success in this industry, we don't look back, right? It's kind of like, like what happened to like plugging everybody else in? Like, why you ain't giving up the plug? And that's what I see happening a lot. Not only that, but we also don't even want to work together, and I think that comes from, there's a lot of things I think play a part of that, but there's this desperation to this. There's such a desperation that I see in this business for us wanting to like make it, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we'll do it at others' detriment. And not only that, but we don't realize how much more we can accomplish together. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's the reality. Like we truly are. I see a lot of people, they're just really happy with getting a deal, right? Like if they get a deal with Warner Brothers, they get a deal with Netflix, they get a deal, right? And their name is mentioned in the trades and they get some development money and they're creating stuff for a particular studio, which is not a bad thing, right? But if you look at what we stand to gain if we were to come together, bring our resources together, our talent together, you know what I mean? And create more opportunity for other people that may not necessarily be able to pitch a show to Netflix or pitch a show to Warner Brothers without having to sell their souls. If you can create a place where we can incubate original IP, teach our people how to create and own our stuff, right? And to license. And, there's lots of things that play into it. We could really move the needle forward for the culture versus like each of us individually getting a cool deal and then going home and not really doing anything that is going to be significant enough to pave a way for people coming after us. And that's what I don't want to do. So our whole thing is we're thinking inclusive and not exclusive. And I think that is the future to me, it's the future of all entrepreneurs in capitalism. I think there's a social responsibility that people are starting to understand, that you're not just starting a business. You should be starting a business thinking about how you can improve other people's lives or in some way affect the world in a positive way.
Right.
So everything that we do has a core value attached to it. and it has an intention behind it. So we're never motivated by money or the idea of success or the idea of working with this company or that company. That's not at the forefront of what we're doing. The forefront of what we're doing is how do we move the culture forward and create opportunities for more people and in some way improve the situation. You know what I'm saying? Without sacrificing our own integrity to do it.
Yeah. And you know, when you have that type of mindset, that's where things it reaches the people on a more emotional level, because then now you're sitting there and you're like, you get invested, right? You know, one of the things that I love that I've been blessed with is that I've been blessed with the opportunity to see certain people or certain things from the ground up, right? And so, you know, right now we're watching Martian Blueberry from the ground up. And I know it sounds crazy because, you know, you have so much work within this game, but you know, you got to think it's not necessarily a pivot, but it is a pivot. It's like, okay, I've been employed and I've been helping build things. Now this is my opportunity to build something. And we're seeing that from the ground up. And I like the care that you're taking, because, you know, a lot of people jump into things and the first thing is like, oh, I'm gonna use all my resources and everything. And then they're jumping into it and then they speed through it, and then product that comes out is not the full vision. And then you hear from them later on and they say, oh yeah, well, you know, I wanted to get this out, I tried this, and you understand like, oh, this is why this product turned out this way. And every step that I've been seeing, you know, watching from afar is just like, oh, Carl is taking his time with this rollout of Martian Blueberry. Carl is making sure that the pieces and the pillars are there, so that way when it's full-fledged time and it's full-fledged moment and the presentation to the world and everything, that things are stable and they're able to run. And I think that that's going to be what creates, you know, the sustainability of Martian Blueberry, because you took your time with it.
You're right. And the other thing is, you know, I always hear this, you know, you hear this term self-love, or you hear a lot of people talking about, you know, even independence, right? And when I say independent model, I just mean more so like raising the money ourselves versus having to always rely on the studio, right? But the word, but independence in general, I think sometimes is taken out of context, because, you know, we all need each other. Like we need each other. I'm saying human beings need each other. Yep. There's nothing on this planet that doesn't function as a collective. You know, you can go inside your own body and find where, you know what I mean? I mean, everything in existence is a collective of something, of its atoms or cells and organs that creates a system, and things work in a system. So we it's not really about finding a way to do it with fewer people. It's about finding a way to be. It's about finding the right strategic partnerships to create the universe that you envision, right? It's like, it's not, and I say universe because I think it's much larger. When you think more inclusively, it's much larger than a small group of people starting a company. You know, right. you can find, and this is some of what we're doing is experimental, you know, and which is also the thing that gets me excited, is because we're trying to push boundaries and do something innovative and take risks to maybe create a new form of production company or animation company that is not extractive always, you know, and not thinking of what we can get from a creative or what we can get from a studio and what we can get from the audience. It's more about how we can create some type of mutual transaction between the two, where even our audience can also be stakeholders, right? And this is something that a lot of people aren't necessarily on now, but if you go to, when you start looking into Web3 and NFTs, they're already doing it. So it's not shareholder capitalism, it's stakeholder capitalism. And why that's important is because as we're building these IPs, just like the success of the Boondocks, it would never be as successful as it was if it wasn't for the fans, if it wasn't for the people watching it, supporting it, talking to other people about it. Especially now with social media, these video games, a lot of these video games are popular because people are playing them, recording themselves playing them, and talking to people about them, building energy around them, right? So why do they not have any stake in those games, right? Because they are a huge reason why it is a success. So that's a big part of what we're building as well, is an infrastructure that allows fans and people that support us in the very beginning to also have equity, not only in the IP, but also the organization itself, the company itself, you know. And this to me is game changing, only because it's, to your point, this is how you make a true connection emotionally with your audience, right? But also you create an opportunity for them to improve their lives as well. So it's not just extractive. It's not just we create a product and you pay us for it, you know, as a consumer. We, you know, I can go on, and I don't know I'm rambling, but
it makes sense, and you know,
I'm really passionate about it. You know,
I can tell, but you've always have, even from the first when you was talking about it, just like even from back then when you first told me about even the idea of it. It's just like you can tell that passion, and a lot of times passion moves things, right? And that's what's needed in regards to it. But on the other side, and this is what I really just love about the creations of things that you create and your mindset with things, is that because you also have a very dope comedic mind, right? Because, you know, a lot of your works are embedded in, you know, culture, but you also have that comedy. And, you know, the joke always is, you know, Black people don't take anything serious. You know, we always gonna find a joke in it and everything. In today's world, do you think that your style of comedy and that parodiness, do you think that it can sustain in this, survive in this world?
Wow, that's a so yeah, I think it can, right? But I will say it is harder. It is definitely harder. It's a lot more challenging. But I'm up for the challenge because I feel like, I mean, look, there's not like no one has malicious intent, right? Like meaning like we're creating content, and even if a network or a studio is nervous about it, everyone's looking out for their best interests, the best interests of their company, their investors, their board. All of these things play a part in it. Things that we don't necessarily factor in as creators because we're just like, they won't let me do this, you know. But there's a lot of things at play, right? And for me, as I begin to mature a little bit more in this industry and actually am able to see things from different angles, right? I do understand how they're looking at it, right? And a lot of times they're, especially if you're talking about like networks, you know, the fear comes from, you know, the pressure and the you know, what you know, afraid that they're going to be on the wrong side of history a lot of times, or being, you know, or being insensitive, right? But I think it challenges us as creatives to find a new way to tell our stories so that it still resonates with people, right? It's kind of like, it's like, to me, I look at it like it's like healing, right? Because I'm a Dr. Sebi. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Sebi, but
absolutely.
So Dr. Sebi was my mentor. He taught me everything about herbs and health and everything, right? Changed my life, and he was amazing. But one of the things that he did as a healer is, you know, he would have to find a way to give you the medicine, right, without your body rejecting it. And that doesn't mean necessarily just because it tastes bad. It means also, you know, there's certain organs that may not be functioning properly, and you still got to get to it's got to get to where it needs to go, right? So sometimes you have to be sophisticated in your approach, right, so that you can get the medicine where it needs to go, so it does what it needs to do. And so I think a lot of times with the kind of content, especially because a lot of stuff we do is satire and it's social commentary, there's landmines everywhere, right? It's just what it is. It's because, you know, we're dealing with hot button topics. Right. So I would never blame the audience for getting upset because they were offended by something, or I would never blame the studio or the network for not necessarily taking a chance on doing it. I just would challenge myself as a creative to find a more intelligent way to articulate my vision so that I can make it happen. And look, even if I still can't do it that way, then I have to find another way to tell my stories, maybe find another way to distribute those stories, right? So to answer your question, it's possible. It's a lot more things you got to navigate around. And I have experienced some of it now. And there's been moments where, you know, there's some battles I won, some of them I didn't, right?
Yeah.
But
That's life.
that's life. But the other thing that it helped me to do is when the door closes, 20 more of them open up in my mind. So I start finding other avenues to do things, whether that's artistically, creatively, or even, on the business side,
Yeah. So with that being said, because I mean, like I said, I know you're tapped into the culture and you tapped into. Is there anything that you would love, like in the past, few like 5-10 years that you was like, man, if I could have parodied this on Boondocks, I would have loved to get my hands on it. Is there like a situation that you would have loved to put your imprint on?
You mean like since the show went away?
Yeah.
Oh man, so many. I mean, so many, bro. It's so many times where like I'll see stuff like, I mean, even with this Diddy situation, man. It's like this is
Oh man.
it's like, I mean, I would just love to see like Granddad at a Diddy freak off party. I just
Oh my God, bro.
we just want to see how that would play out.
I didn't even think about that, bro. Granddad, because he went he was his Do It Big party. He went to his Do It Big vacation. Right. So
right.
Granddad would be hilarious in that moment. I ain't gonna hold you. That would be legendary, bro.
Yeah.
I want to ask a couple of music questions though. Back to it because I know that a lot of rappers reach out to you, right? And they tell you about how much what you created, whether it is Black Dynamite or the Boondocks, or just in general. And they talk, they reach out to you. Some of them they want to work. Some of them they just want to show that love and that appreciation for it. For somebody who you walk in this life of humbleness, and you walk into and you give love back to a lot of people. How does it feel to hear that from these people that are also larger than life, but also they're fanning out for you? Like, how does that feel in those moments when you have those interactions?
It's crazy, bro. Like, it's crazy. I'm always overwhelmed by. I mean, it could be one person that I run into, like, just it's hard to explain. You gotta understand, man. Like, I'm a nigga. I came from Fayetteville, North Carolina, man. It's a small town with nobody was doing any of this, and I grew up like during the crack epidemic, and I seen my friends dying and getting locked up, and my whole neighborhood turned upside down overnight when that shit hit like that. So like, when I think back to where I came from and to be privileged to do this, because it was always a dream of mine since I was a kid. Like I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil and creating characters and trying to tell stories and write jokes and stuff like that. I've been doing it not ever knowing how I would make any of this happen. So if I ever have an opportunity where somebody is telling me how much they appreciate something that I made or contributed to, like, that shit is everything to me, man. It's like when I went to DreamCon, but that shit was emotional, man. To see, especially because I go to conventions all the time. Like, San Diego Comic-Con is what it is. It's a huge con, and there's a lot of fans there, and things are dope. But DreamCon was something special because there were so many Black people there that it would, you saw what the stuff that we made, how much it meant to the culture in real time, hearing people. I mean, one guy was damn near in tears, man. Almost made me cry as he was like going back to a time when that show got him through like a really, really tough time in life. And like, you know what I'm saying? So I'll stand there for as long as I can. Like, we had a line of people. You saw like at DreamCon was a line of people. And I mean, each person was special to me, bro. It was like, I can't even really describe it. It's just, and I'm not just saying that, like, it's like just to see people's eyes light up and to see them laugh and start, especially when they start imitating like Thugnificient and Warrior shit. Like, yo, one nigga was dressed like Uncle Ruckus. I mean, I was just like, it's just crazy. It's crazy, bro. Then they had it was a Bushido Brown. There was a Black Dynamite there. Yeah. Somebody was dressed up like Freaknik. I was like, so it's like it's crazy, bro. It's like I can't even put it into words. It just really moves me, you know.
Man, it's super dope. And then, you know, again, it's like, again, it's one of those things. Like I said, you're seeing legends and people that are tapping in with you that are like larger than life right now. You know, like say, you know, you got people like, you know, I know Trippie Redd, MGK, Metro Boomin. Quick question: when you link with Metro, was this pre or post this?
Oh, it was pre. Yo, let me tell you something funny about that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess I could. I guess I can say it now. No, what's crazy is well, first of all, the fact that because he reached out and I was like blown away that he wanted to meet with me, right? Like I said, and I just understood your question now. Thinking back, you were talking about people that were like you know, people more established, like artists and entertainers. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same to me. Like, as you know, as a nigga come up just like Uncle Ruckus and Trippie Redd, both of them, I get the same feeling. It's just, you know what I mean? But yeah. I'm sometimes taken aback, like when someone like, you know, like Metro Boomin reaches out and wants to connect. So, but we connected, and he's a big fan of anime. That's the other thing. A lot of these people, they're huge anime heads, man. It's not like
that's whole creation of my podcast. I want to bring people and show that to people.
Bro, that's the thing. So it's not even just like, I mean, yeah, they appreciate what I do, but they also are like really in this shit. Like they really fuck with anime, and they really are like comic book animation heads, you know? So so we connected. And what I was saying was funny about it is we took a picture, right? And so you know, my wife Love, she was taking the photo, and it was the area we were taking the photo because we were at his studio. It was kind of dark. So she was like, move over to the right. So we got under the light. And so I posted the picture, right? And nigga, I realized the track list was behind. Yo, and it was too late. It was too late. So I was like, I archived it, and I'm like, all right, maybe I'm good. You know, nobody's seen it. Nah, I went to, you know, it was like a week or two later. I think it was like a week or two later. My son had sent me a link. Right, and it was on Twitter. So I know the people at his label. So I hit him up. I was like, "Yo, man, I don't know how this. I was an accident, bro. I don't know. I didn't mean for this shit to happen." It's like, "Is it a problem? Is it a problem?" And he was like, "Oh, well, let's see what happens." Don't you know? So fortunately, the album dropped like 2 days later or something like that, or like shortly after that. So it didn't create no problem. But I was nervous, bro. I was like, I didn't want to be that guy.
Bro, that's a hip hop moment like a motherfucker. Because you can think about it. We all grew up in that era where track lists get leaked and you see it and stuff like that. And so you just happen to be part of a motion, a part of a moment when that happened.
Love that, how did I throw her under the bus? She did. She's like, she had us move over under the light. And that's, you know.
But I mean, that's like I said, that is always dope. And you know, I noticed that Metro was a big anime head when he started doing a lot of stuff with the Spider-Verse, and I started seeing the things that he was into. He's on my list of people. I got a list of people in the music industry that I want to have that conversation with, because I go in depth, and I feel like they're going to get on there and somebody's going to breathe. He's going to get on Breakfast Club and they're going to be like, oh, yeah, you like stuff. And they're going to do surface level. But I want to deep dive with people like Metro, because I know that, like you said, a lot of these cats, they are that. They love this anime. You know, you see, and you're seeing stars lean into it more. You know, like I said, I had an interaction online, and now that now both of these people are on my list, and I don't think nobody caught on. During Halloween last year, Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys cosplay as Beerus, and I forgot who else, but it was anime characters.
Oh, I remember seeing that. I saw that. Yeah.
And so I was like, yo, let me find out they blurs. And Alicia Keys replied back like, yeah, we are really into this. And I'm like, all right. So now I need to get y'all one-on-one with Deuces. I need to have this conversation. And they have not talked about it yet. I do research. I looked up and down to see, have they ever talked about anime? And I said, none of they haven't. I was like, I need that conversation to happen on Geekset. I need that to be there and everything. So, it is that you start seeing that this culture, it does, a lot of people, this is like they're, you know, whether it's the thing that connect them with their kids, because I think that's what Alicia Keys said, is like, me, Swiss, and our son, that's what we connect over, or it's something from their past that they're like, yo, I really love this. it does get to that. So it's like, it's one of those things that I really want to continue to have that. And that's, I want to be the reporter of this culture. And so I make sure I push to do that.
You know what? I realize there's a lot of, they coined this phrase kiddos now, right? Like, it's like kiddos, like that's really, we live in an era now where a lot of us just never grew up, you know what I mean? And I think it's dope, because bro, like we got so many people, from Meg Thee Stallion, developing some stuff with her, and Metro Boomin, Hit Boy, you know what I'm saying? Chief Keef. It's stuff I can't really talk about yet, but but Chief Keef, I can't get into details, but talking to Chris Brown's people about some stuff, a lot of really dope people. You said, Trippie Redd, we got a project, in development with him. There's a lot of really cool stuff on the music side of animation, because but again, that's a big part, I think, of what I've done over the years. It's been so, I think it spoke to a lot of those artists in a real way, because the same way their music spoke to us in a real way, and you see it reflected in the animation and in the work. So it's kind of, Super Duper Kyle's another, another dope artist. Denzel Curry, Freddie Gibbs is, bro. And Rakeem Miles, another dope artist. Actually, he's more than an artist. That dude is, he's like honestly like the next Pharrell. This nigga is crazy. Like, I'm talking about creatively, he's a genius. He's insane. But those are just like some of the artists that we got some stuff bubbling with.
Dope. I like to play on words. Bubbling. So man, all right, where can people stay up to date on what you got going on, and how what's the best way for them to support you?
All right, so well, the best way, I would say, follow us on Instagram at We Are Martian B. We have a website, and we're on Twitter, but not really. Twitter is kind of, it's
kind of weird right now on Twitter.
Yeah, it's kind of weird right now. But we're also going to be, we got some stuff in the works, and we'll just follow the Instagram for now, and then but we got some other exciting things like in development, and I think that it's gonna be legendary. I'll just say that.
Anytime a creative look away and then they just start smiling, I'm like, oh, they cooking, because that's how you know. That's when you start thinking about the projects. You're like, I got stuff. Oh, I can't wait to get this to the world. So I'm excited to see. And you already know, here at Geekset, we're gonna continue to report on everything that you guys got going, and make sure we continue to big it up and everything like that, because again, we want to see our legends win, and then you're creating spaces for new people. I've spoken on our podcast a lot about the opportunities that you allowed me and my team to have, and that means so much. And then hearing how you say Aaron Magruder gave you your first shot, it's a testament to people who can pay it forward, right? Who takes, somebody who looked like me, who sound like me, who maybe came from the same walk of life, gave me my first shot, and because of that, I'm going to continue to give people shots as well. And so, I do appreciate this, what I'm saying, that even like outside of just me, seeing how you give shots and give people chances and opportunities, because I remember, like I said, the creation of Martian Blueberry when you was telling me about it. And I remember how the team was, and now I'm seeing new names come across emails and that you're telling me about, and people reaching out to me and seeing new names in the hashtag. And I'm like, this company is growing, and I'm glad that I love seeing the growth of that. And so it's just really dope to see.
Well, let me just say this. You were there when we were first talking about how we wanted to lay this out. And we had a couple bumps in the road, what I'm saying, and had to pivot, because that's a part of it, especially when you're dealing with investors and partners, because sometimes, all money ain't good money, as they say, right? So like, you got to find the right partners to move forward with. So we've been going through our trials and error, finding the right configuration to make this work. But we're getting it there now. We're starting to really fine tune it. And you guys and the rest of the team that was on board in the very beginning when we first started discussing, remember, because we had our think tanks and stuff like that. you know, we're gonna be bringing that back together. You know what I'm saying? And assembling like Voltron. So like, so yeah. So just know everything that we plan to do is still in motion. We just had to, you know, we had to pivot a little bit.
No, understandable. But man, hey, I have been your boy Deuces. This has been the amazing Carl Jones. This is one-on-one with Deuces. Again, this was a special episode. I had to do this because I got to get back to, you know what I'm saying? We put in our project together, so I got to get back to it. So, hey, if you are here, stay tuned still because I'm going to show the trailer again to y'all. But I want to say, man, again, thank you, bro, for coming on here. Thank you for giving me your time and everything like that. I appreciate you so much, and we are out. Peace.
All
right, let me throw on this trailer real quick. We got 100 people in here. They got to see the trailer.
Oh wow, yeah.
The one thing that I absolutely love about the culture is that it's still embedded in Black culture.
White geeks still rock Dunks or Jordans, and they also talk about Batman versus Superman. Batman and versus Superman is literally Brown versus Jordan.
Dragon Ball Z, that like my whole trajectory in life changed. Don't nobody talk to me. My shit is on.
We just finna experience it. It look like it's gonna be real deep.
Oh my God, this is crazy!
The elevation from where King Vader started to now fucking crazy.
Black geek culture helped me through some of the highs of my life, through some of the lows of my life. It's always been there, sort of like an undercurrent to everything that I did.
There was no term for it. It was just, this is what I'm doing.
I love us in it. I love the fact that we take things and we always make it better.